Hey and welcome to Throne and Liberty with Aragon. So in this video, I want to cover exactly what stat points you need, along with which attack and protection stats you need. This will vary if you're doing PvE content or you're doing PvP content. A big question, particularly in PvP, is do I go Evasion or do I go Endurance? So let's answer all these things and show you exactly how it all works together with the damage formula. This is the Excel sheet and it includes all of those damage stats with even your target's evasion, endurance, and heavy attack evasion. What this allows us to do is ultimately compare two builds versus each other. Let's say I'm contemplating what stat points I want. Do I want to go 50 strength or do I want to stack more into perception and wisdom? We can reset our stats here and you can see for every stat point you gain, for example on dexterity, you gain all of these benefits. So it can be confusing and you may wonder what exactly do I need for my specific build. So let's run you through some examples and show you exactly what's best. I'm currently at the mid-game level. And a big source of stat points outside of the 49 you get when leveling up is going to be gear. Like these weapons giving 8 dexterity, these daggers giving 10 strength, this headpiece giving 4 dexterity, this armor piece giving 4 as well, with these hands giving 5 perception, these bracers giving 6 perception, and that's generally going to be the main place you get a lot of those extra points. And then those 49 you'll have to put in specific areas. So for this example, this is build 1, 50 strength, 40 dexterity, 30 wisdom, and 26 perception. And then build 2 is 20 strength, 54 dexterity, 30 wisdom, and 35 perception. With that and inputting all of our values, we can find that it's over 8% damage increase to go with build 1, which is again 50 strength, 40 dexterity. And the big reason behind this is that heavy attack chance. We get over 10% there with 120. And if you're not aware, heavy attack basically allows you to deal double damage. Any attack you deal has a chance to deal that damage twice. It can be absolutely massive. And getting strength to 50 allows you to get 100 extra heavy attack chance rating. The only catch here is the fact I'm calculating it with targets to have 0 evasion. If they, for example, had 540 evasion, then it would be better going into like a bit more perception, a bit more wisdom and dexterity in order to increase that hit chance. It's now gone up by like 100 and nearly 50, and we're like at the level of being above the target's evasion, which means that would be overall a little bit more of a damage gain. But if I went this scenario, 50 strength, 40 dex, 10 wisdom, and then if I went to 30 perception by getting say 1 more point, this would allow me to get the bonus 100 hit chance from it. So I need to seek that out. There should be 1 gear piece here at least that I could get 1 more point somewhere. And that would be the best scenario for me. And ultimately, it will net you the most amount of damage. So in terms of stat points, my ultimate conclusion for a damage dealer is to get strength to 50, get dexterity to 40, get perception to 30. After that, you can invest more into dexterity, or if you need mana, more into wisdom, which will also give a tiny little bit of cooldown speed. A quick note for healers and tanks. Well, healers will be just wanting to get as much crit chance as possible, so they'll go all dexterity and wisdom. They don't need, say, the heavy attack chance. So strength is kind of a bit pointless for them, and the same for perception. For tanks, it's just all as much strength as possible for the HP, and the heavy attack chance is decent for dealing damage which equals threat, and getting that all the way up to like 70 will give you even more health and more damage resistance. But now we move on to our gear. What do you want to prioritize in the way of stats on those gear pieces? First of all, again, if you're a damage dealer, you're focusing on ones that are going to give you points to these, because every point is going to give you base damage boost, min and max, on top of those extra benefits when you hit the milestones, like heavy attack chance at 50 strength. And so it's very important to get gear pieces that give you boosts to those. And that, along with getting high crit chance, is the most important for PvE content. When you're just beating up those bosses which have set stats, you will want to get around 500 hit chance, and I believe that will be suitable for all the current PvE content so you don't miss a single hit. Again, we want to get perception to 30 and we'll get an extra 100 and that'll be sorted. After that, it's all critical hit chance, and so that's the kind of gear we're looking to get. Anything that gives us hit chance, crit chance, and then boosts to these main stats here. In terms of tanks and healers, we'll start with healers. You just want to prioritize critical hit chance. This will allow you to critically heal your targets, basically getting a max roll with your base damage as your heal. And of course, you will be wanting to work on getting these stat boosts, as they will also help with your base damage. And you'll probably want to be investing quite a lot into wisdom and gear pieces that give you, say, mana boost and mana regen boost, so you aren't running out of the resource to keep your allies healed. For tanks, very simply, just stack as much gear pieces which give you hit points and give you defense, and then even evasion. But you're going to have to be careful because there are certain different evasions and certain content's going to favor certain damage types, and so it can be easier to just go into endurance, which will be more reliable, especially since we don't actually know what the enemy's hit chance is. For PvP, it gets kind of very dependent on who you're fighting. Your enemy players are going to either stack evasion or they're going to stack endurance. And the way this works is they are counter stats. So we're just going to look at these four for now. And if your enemy has 0 evasion, then you actually don't need any hit chance at all. You can see the damage gain is exactly the same. But as soon as your enemy has like 500 evasion, you need to be stacking that hit chance, because now you're going to miss your attacks 33% of the time on them. So you get your evasion to 500 to match, and there you go. There's no damage difference there anymore. All of your hits will deal the same amount of damage as if the target had 0 evasion. But if your target stacks more evasion again to say 1000, you're again down to missing your attacks 33% of the time. That's a massive damage loss. So you need to stack your hit chance higher again. Ultimately, you're going to find most people at around 1000 hit chance. So in terms of stacking survivability, evasion can be really good if you get above a 425 difference. Because if we look then at critical hit chance and endurance, they are again counter stats. If my critical hit chance is less than my enemy's endurance, I'll never critically hit them. You'll see this right here. If my enemy has 1000 endurance, I'm never going to critically hit them. That becomes 0%. So if you want to stack critical hit chance in PvP, you're going to have to stack a lot of it. Definitely going to have to be higher than your enemy. But if you want to stack survivability, then all you have to do is match your enemy's critical hit chance. And enemy's critical hit chance is going to be anywhere from 1000 to probably 1500. However, many people are investing more so into hit chance for PvP than they are crit chance, meaning you actually don't need a lot of endurance to actually match them. Because again, if you have more endurance than your enemy has critical hit chance, it has no effect. You can see it's still 0 there, down to 800, still 0. I can have 2000 endurance and my enemy only has 800 hit chance. You can see no effect. So you only need as much as your enemies have of critical hit chance. But we need to then look at both of them. And the ultimate conclusion is this. At the beginning, when everybody's new, evasion is massive, because when your targets don't have a lot of hit chance, maybe 400, and you come along and you stack maybe 1000 evasion, you can see they're going to miss you 37% of the time on their hits. That's a huge damage reduction gain. You maybe stack that even higher to 1500, and you can see over half of the hits that they attack you with will miss. However, as soon as that player starts getting hit chance and starts stacking that up to counter you, it ends up not as worth it. But getting to 1500 evasion is usually enough, and it generally becomes better than stacking endurance. For example, if we stacked 1000 endurance to counter our enemy's critical hit chance, so now they will crit us 0% of the time, then you can see stacking evasion's actually better. It would reduce their enemy's damage more. The limit at this point is a difference of 425. That is the point where stacking evasion becomes better than endurance. You're going to have to choose between the two because the main source of those defensive stats, evasion and endurance, is going to come from your traits, and that gets super expensive. I'll cover more details on that in another video, but it is the big catch for endgame right now in this game. It's going to cost you an absolute ton, and in doing so, you don't exactly make PvE content any easier. So it can be an absolute massive sink of resources, and honestly, it's not really worth it unless you're big into the PvP scene. But to break it down to you very simply, as a new player and you're still working on your character, just get endurance, guys. Stack this endurance. You're going to reduce the critical hits, and you can have a very little amount and it will always be effective. Evasion, you have to get super high or it's utterly useless. And even then, people can just stack hit chance and completely counter you altogether. And so if you're looking for extra damage in PvP content, the reliable route is to get a lot of hit chance. Get that to like 1000, and that way you can counter anybody who is stacking evasion. You'll want to just kind of ignore your hit chance because people can just stack endurance and easily counter that. If you have less crit chance than they have endurance, then yeah, you deal no damage. All of the crit chance you have is utterly wasted. So it works exactly inversely. If you want to deal damage, you stack hit chance. If you want protection, you stack endurance. And that's the easy way to go. You can be a whale, stack an absolute ton of evasion, get to 1500 up to 2000 with some abilities, and sure, you can go and be super powerful. But as soon as the next update hits, you're going to have to keep up with everybody's hit chance and getting at least like 425, 500 points more than what everybody else has as hit chance. It's going to be super hard to keep up. On top of that, you can only choose like 2 of the stats here. In most cases, gear is only going to have like either melee evasion and ranged evasion, or ranged evasion and magic evasion, and so it's going to be very hard to stack a lot of multiple of the different evasions. In terms of specific gear for PvP, again, you'll just be taking gear that actually gives you those stats. You won't prioritize these main stat points over here on the left as much, because it becomes a lot more important to counter each other with these specific stats. On a last note, with regards to your stats and the tooltips, I just want to explain what it means by as the difference increases, efficiency decreases. Ultimately, when you look at the formula of that, you will get this table. So you're going from like a 1-to-1 efficiency where 10 points is equal to 1% as explained by the tooltip. But then as the difference increases, so the difference between your hit chance and your evasion gets greater, like by 500 points, then the effectiveness is going to be there at about 33%. If it's 1,000 points, it's at 50%. If it's 2,000 points, then you're at around 66%. And you can see the exact same table breakdown of that here. It's going to be the same with your crit chance. If your crit is 500 points above the enemy's evasion, then you have 33%. If it's 1,000, that's 50%. If you have 2,000, that's 66%. And so we have like a soft cap of how much we can get. And a crit, you're probably going to get around 60% on most realistic builds. You're not going to go much higher than 1,500 right now. And with like heavy attack chance, you're probably going to be the best at like 20%, because you're not going to get much more than 250. So this applies to all of those stats here that say as the difference increases, efficiency decreases. Again, with that exact table. So it approaches 100%, but you're never going to get there. You're never going to get 100% crit rate. You're never going to get 100% missed chance from evasion. And you're never going to get 100% heavy attack chance. So overall, hopefully this was somewhat insightful and it helps you out. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And thanks all for watching. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.